Corpus Chrome Inc. is the second novel I've had the pleasure of reading from S. Craig Zahler, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite writers. The first novel of his I read was Mean Business on North Ganson Street, and I reviewed that as well. You can check it out in the iCard or in the description. I'm also reading A Congregation of Jackals. Might review that in the future. Anyway, Corpus Chrome Inc. is a sci-fi story set primarily in a future New York. The main sci-fi technology which drives key plot elements is the mannequin technology developed by the titular Corpus Chrome Incorporated. The mannequin is a constructed body which houses a frozen brain of a deceased individual. The novel poses a number of complex moral and ethical questions regarding these rebodied individuals and the company that holds a monopoly over the technology, effectively deciding who deserves a second shot at life. The rebodying process is extremely expensive, and few people are rebodied, relatively speaking. One particular plotline revolves around the rebodying of a convicted and executed murderer. The rationale behind this decision and the actions of the people who oppose it are interesting enough, but Corpus Chrome Inc. pulls on that narrative thread further until the rebodied murderer delivers his recollection of hell, opening further questions for the reader and the characters to ponder. This book certainly portrays a unique vision of hell, not based on any existing religion or presupposed hellish imagery. That is just one of many plotlines within Corpus Chrome Inc. There is a very large cast of characters with individual plotlines that don't so much interweave as they do run tangential to each other, cohabitating in this world. The most literal overlap might be in the form of characters from one plotline passing by the characters from another plotline in the Corpus Chrome lobby. Each chapter alternates between the various plotlines, sometimes jumping to a perspective unique to that one chapter, involving characters we might not ever follow up on. The constantly changing cast of characters makes this an easy book to read through quickly. It helps that all the characters are excellently written and fun to follow. S. Craig Zahler is one of the best character writers out there. He paints such a well-defined vision of every character that comes across the page, even characters only present for short durations. The characters are so good that they don't even need to be doing anything plot-related half the time. Corpus Chrome Inc. spends a lot of time on things that do not at all affect the broader narrative. Chapters and chapters where nothing of consequence happens. But it doesn't matter because the characters are so likable that you feel like you would follow them anywhere. One of the main characters is a garbage collector named Champ Suppline, who moves into an apartment near the start of the book. We learn a lot about him and he has some drama with his ex-wife, but outside of that one conflict, Champ isn't involved in much in the way of meaningful plot developments for a large chunk of the novel, until his deceased father is rebodied by Corpus Chrome Inc. later on. We spend many chapters with him, just sort of goofing around, but it's never boring, and it's always incredibly fun, actually. There are chunks of Champ's storyline that feels like they could be straight out of a sitcom. A really good sitcom. Champ moves into the only apartment that he can afford, which happens to not really be an apartment. It's a kitchen accessed through a rope ladder leading down from the bathroom of the actual apartment. This kitchen was secured as part of an intra-floor war going on within the apartment building. Champ learns of the war from his eccentric landlord, R.J. III, who was a fat cat named Architect, is an auteur filmmaker with a fan club, and is slightly obsessed with sandwich sandwiches. The two engage in intra-floor building warfare at a small scale with levels ranging from pushing and shoving to light slapping, with the help of a third roommate, a horticultural student who rents a closet. This group of characters is so much fun to follow, and I genuinely think their group dynamic in this intra-floor war would make a fun spin-off series. With all the time devoted to non-plot demanding chapters, it would be easy to assume that Corpus Chrome Inc. loves wasting time. That could be true to a small extent, but mostly I think it shows that Zahler decided to place the focus on characters and world building over plot. That's not to say the plot is lacking, it's great, but it does take a back seat at times. The world building is top-notch, however. The book doesn't over-explain the futuristic technology, so the first time a tech element or something not of our current world is introduced, it might not be clear what exactly it does, but with reiteration further into the book, or with the help of context clues, eventually everything becomes abundantly clear without feeling like the reader is being spoon-fed information. It never feels expository. The world feels fully realized, and thankfully something that I consider extremely important, it's believable. Things like seatbelts being replaced by the more effective pseudopodia or windshields now having a bug view option to cover a wider field of view makes sense and seems like logical progressions within a sci-fi world. One interesting bit of tech the novel uses quite frequently is called a moat aquarium. It's essentially the replacement for TVs in this future. Instead of a 2D image, moat aquariums are a three-dimensional space inside which pixels render models for scenes from movies, shows, the news. This is something that seems doable given the state that 3D models are already at, but what's more interesting is the way that the novel uses this technology. The moat aquariums throughout the book allow Zahler to transition into what are essentially disconnected vignettes. Zahler will describe a character watching the news on a moat aquarium, but he will also detail every scene of a film watched by a character also. They're interesting diversions that sometimes relate to the other storylines thematically, but sometimes they just exist in their own contained fictional universe. Zahler's trademark brutal violence is present again in Corpus Ink, but the tone overall feels much lighter. All of the emotion rings true and is genuinely affecting, from the sad moments to the happy, but in general, the moment-to-moment reading experience comes off a little more lighthearted than his other work that I've seen. Quickly highlighting two particularly effective moments: the outcome of a romantic relationship we spent most of the novel watching develop, and a retrospective story about the fall of the Empire State Building, as told to a group of children on a class field trip. This chapter is the most violent by far, and also provides greater context to the changes undergone by the city in the time since. An excellent bit of world building. Corpus Ink is another great novel from S. Craig Zahler, this one feeling less cinematic than Mean Business on North Ganson Street. This one has more of a TV series filming. I'm excited to read the rest of his work. Check out Corpus Ink if it sounds interesting to you. My Mean Business on North Ganson Street review will be on the screen for you to check out, along with our review for his film Brawl in Cell Block 99. I'll see you in the next video.